simplify. We've got this statement here. Remember that anytime you divide, if you want to get rid of the dividing, you can take the inverse and multiply. So let's go ahead and start with that. Okay, so we have 16t squared minus 1 over 12t squared minus 13t minus 4 times 27t cubed minus 64 over 64t cubed minus 1. And all we've done is taken the inverse of this. If you're dividing, take the inverse and multiply, you'll get the same answer. So now we're looking at, okay, how can we break this up, or how can we factor this out where we can divide some things through? If you look at this right here, that is really the difference of squares. Let's just do a quick review on some special factoring, the difference of squares. Let's say we have x squared minus 4. Well, that's the same thing as x squared minus 2 squared. And we have the difference. Difference is the same thing as subtraction. So we have a square here and a square here, so we have two squares being subtracted from each other. So that gives us the difference of squares. And if we were going to do this, we could come back to here and let's say we were going to factor this. So this would be x and x plus 2 minus 2 would be the factors there. And if you multiply it back out, you notice that you get plus 2x here, minus 2x there, go to 0, so you don't have any middle term when you have the difference of squares. So what you can look at this, you can recognize it and understand it goes to this, or you can think of there's a formula here you can remember is a squared minus b squared is equal to a plus b times a minus b. And that's the difference of squares formula. Okay, so now let's go back up to the problem here, and we can look at our first term here. We have right here, that's really a difference of squares, because you can take, let's just work on this right here. So we have, let's pull it down, 16t squared minus 1. That can be rewritten as 4 squared t squared minus 1. And now it's in the difference of squares format. Remember, difference of squares, a squared minus b squared is equal to a plus b times a minus b. So if we look at this, our a term is 4, so a, I'll just write it over for this time, a is 4t and b is equal to 1. So for the difference of squares, we have a plus b, a is 4t, plus 1, times a, which is 4t, minus 1. And we can check this. If we multiply this out, we have 16t squared, then minus or plus 4t minus 4t goes to 0. Plus 1 times negative 1 gives us minus 1. So if we multiply this back out, we're going to get our original term back up here, our 16t squared minus 1. So we know what this term right there is. So let's, I'm going to drop it down here a little bit so we have room to work on the next one. We'll put it down here. It'd be 4t plus 1 times 4t minus 1. And that's the first term there. Then we look at the term right here. Well, that's just a trinomial. Can we factor that? Well, let's look at that. So let's see if we can factor it. Let's pull this down here. It becomes 12t squared minus 13t minus 4. So if we can factor this. Well, first of all, can you take out a greatest common factor? No, there's no greatest common factors. So we know 12. That gets factors into 3 and 4, 6 and 2, and 1 and 12. So we know that's what the first terms are going to have to be, something like 4 and 3 or 6 and 2 or whatever. And then you know the 4 over here, the 4 is going to factor into 2 and 2 and 1 and 4. Well, look at it. We need a large negative 13 in the middle here. So one of these has to be plus, one has to be minus, because that's a negative, so therefore, and the larger of the terms is going to be the negative term. So let's pick, we can pick whichever factors we want. You're just going to have to continue to work through this by trial and error. to pick the right numbers. And it took me a couple times when I was working this problem to get it correctly. But what it works out to be is 4t, 3t, plus 1, and minus 4. So let's check that. It gets plus 3t and then minus 16t. Add those together, we get negative 13t. And that's what we're looking for. So that checks. So this becomes down here, goes all over 4t plus 1 times 3t minus 4. Now that we've completed the difference of squares, let's come back up and look at the parts up here. If you look at these are difference of cubes. So let's go down and let's review some more. Let's go ahead and review the difference of cubes. What is that? Difference of cubes is, if let's say you have a cubed minus b cubed, that's the same thing as saying it's already the factors. The factors are a minus b times a squared plus ab plus b squared. And just so we know, we don't have it in this particular problem, but you also have the sum of cubes, which would be a cubed plus b cubed, and that'll give you a plus b, a squared minus ab plus b squared. And just kind of a way to help you remember this, if you doesn't matter if you have the difference or the sum of cubes, if you have a cubed, something cubed plus or minus, doesn't matter which it is, b cubed, that's equal to a, and then you take the same sign of whatever it is over here, you know, if it's a minus b, then it becomes minus, times a squared, the opposite sign, so if it's minus, it'd be a squared plus a times b plus b squared, and it's always plus on the end. For the b squared part is always plus. So let's just do a quick example off to the side of how to use the difference of cubes. Let's say we're given x cubed minus 8 cubed. Well, that's the same thing as x cubed minus 2 cubed. And so, okay, we look at this. Well, it's a negative sign there. And our a term here is going to be x, and our b term would be 2 in this case, because that's what's cubed here. So then this becomes a, which is x, minus, because we use the same sign, so the sign is minus 2, same sign, times a squared, which would be x squared, opposite sign, plus a times b, oops, not ab, actually put the terms in there, which would be a, which is x, and 2, so it would be 2 times 2x, plus b squared, which would be 2 squared, which would be 4. So the solution to that would be x minus 2, x squared plus 2x plus 4. Okay, so now let's go back up to the problem we were working on here. Go ahead and find it in all the mess here. Okay, so we're back up to right here. And so we have 27t cubed minus 64. I'm going to run out of room. So let's bring it down. 27t cubed minus 64. We'll just bring it down here where we have a difference of cubes. So it's 27t cubed minus 64. And you look at this and say, well, how is that the difference of cubes? Well, 27 is the same thing as 3 cubed, t cubed, minus, and 64 is the same thing as 4 cubed. So we have the difference of cubes because we have cubes here and we have cubes here. And we have a minus b. So in this case, our a term is going to be 3t and our b term is going to be 4. So if we take this and, okay, so take the first one's the same sign, so it would be 3t minus 4 times a squared, which would be 3 squared t squared, or 3 squared would be 9. Let's just go ahead and do it right now. 9. Take the opposite sign, plus a times b, so a times b would be 12t plus 12t, because 4 times 3t is equal to 12t, and then plus b squared, which would be 4 squared, which would be 16. And so there's what this difference of square breaks down to. And this will not factor. Don't even try to factor it because it will not factor any farther. So don't waste your time trying to factor that. Okay, so that's the difference of square on top, which is, let's see, 3t minus 4, 9t squared plus 12t plus 16, so if I can remember that. Bring it back up to the top here. And so this right there, we just completed the difference of squares on. So we have this quantity times, let's see, was 3t minus 4 times 9t squared plus 12t plus 16. All over, maybe that whole quantity times. And then if we look at this, that's the difference of squares again. So it's difference of squares 64t cubed minus 1. Let's bring it down to the bottom and we'll work on it down here again. Just kind of keep things a little straight here. So we have 64t cubed, what was it, minus 1, right? Yeah, t cubed minus 1. Okay, in this case, remember 64 is the same thing as 4 cubed, so this is 4 cubed t cubed minus 1 cubed. And remember here, this is minus the 1 cubed. This really is written like that, so it's 1, the quantity inside a cube, then you take the negative of that. So don't think that when we're multiplying this out, in this case it's cubed, but a lot of people get confused on the squares. Okay, so now, so it's minus, so it's going to be a, which would be 4t minus 1 times a squared, which would be 4t, so it would be 4 squared, it would be 16t squared, take the opposite, plus 4 times 1, 4t times 1 would be 4t, and then plus 1 squared, which is 1. So it gives us 4t minus 1 times 16t plus 4t plus 1. Let's go ahead and take that quantity back up to our original problem, back up here, and there it is. And so that becomes 4t minus 1 times 16t squared plus 4t plus 1. And that's quantity there. Okay, so now what can we divide out? Let's see, we have 4t plus 1, that divides out with that. 4t minus 1, that divides out there. 3t minus 4 divides out with 3t minus 4. And what is left behind is t squared plus 12t plus 16. Terrible, 6, let me redo that. 6 all over 16t squared plus 4t plus 1. And that's as far as we can reduce it. We can't divide out the t's here, the t squareds or the t's or anything like that, or the 16s any place, because now they're added together, they're not multiplied. You can only divide out when things are multiplied together. And so that's reduced to as far down as we can go. And also an excellent review on special factoring rules.